Sometimes, curiosity doesn't just get you in trouble, it almost gets you killed. Not because you did something wrong, but because you chose the wrong moment to stay silent. Last time, we met a barber, a man who loves to talk, clever, proud of his wisdom. Yet, at the exact moment he should have spoken, he stayed quiet. And that almost cost him his life. I'm Al-Hakawati, the legendary storyteller, and tonight we continue his story and the strange path that led him to stand among men waiting to be executed. The barber stood there, calm as ever, as if nothing unusual had happened. He looked at the crowd and said, he hadn't broken the young man's leg, he had saved his life. If it were not for him, the young man wouldn't even be alive. In fact, he said the young man should be grateful. A broken leg was nothing compared to what could have happened. Then he added that he was not a man who talked too much. He was known for his silence, his wisdom, and his intelligence. And to prove it, he decided to tell them a story, a short one, of course. He said that not long ago, he had been in Baghdad, during the time of a ruler known for justice and kindness to the poor. One day, he noticed a group of men being taken toward a boat by guards. Now, most people would see guards and serious faces and think this doesn't look good. But the barber saw something else. He thought they were going to some kind of feast. And since he wasn't invited, he invited himself. Without asking a single question, he got onto the boat, joined them, and sat among them like he belonged there. They crossed the river. Everything seemed calm until they reached the other side. That was when the guards brought chains and placed them around the men's necks. Then they did the same to him. Now at this point, most people would speak, even just, "Excuse me, I think there's been a mistake." But not the barber. He said nothing, because as you know, he was a man of silence. They were taken before the ruler, and without delay, an order was given. All 10 men were to be executed. One by one, the sentence was carried out, and the barber stood there among them, watching, waiting, as if this was all completely normal, until something felt off. The ruler looked ahead and noticed one man still there, alive. He turned to the executioner and asked why this one was still standing. The executioner looked confused. He was sure he had done everything exactly as ordered. 10 men were brought in, and 10 were dealt with. Now the ruler looked again, more carefully this time, and then he understood. This man did not belong there. And only now, the barber started to realize what was happening. He was asked how he ended up with those men. He answered calmly, like nothing was strange at all. He said he was a barber, a man of great wisdom, a man who doesn't talk much. He said he saw those men heading to the boat and thought they were going to a feast, so he joined them. Then the guards chained them all together, including him, and he stayed silent. Even when they were brought before the ruler, even when the order was given, and even when he sat in front of the executioner, waiting his turn, he stayed silent, because in his mind, this was an act of great dignity, a kind of loyalty, to stand with them without a word. He said, this is what he always does, helping people, standing by them, doing favors, and somehow they always repay him badly. Then, without anyone asking, he added something new. He said that compared to him, his brothers were nothing. He had 6 brothers, and not one of them had his wisdom or his self-control. That caught the ruler's attention. He looked at him with curiosity and asked about them. Were they really so different? The barber didn't hesitate. In fact, he seemed eager, and he started describing them. He said that each one of his brothers had suffered in life because they talked too much and lacked sense. One had lost an eye, another was completely blind, a third could barely move. One had lost his ears, another his lips, and the last was a hunchback. According to him, every one of them had a story that explained exactly how they ended up that way. And even though he insisted, once again, that he was not a man who talked too much, he said he would tell those stories, all of them. Otherwise, how would he prove he wasn't like them? He said he would start with his oldest brother, who was a hunchback and worked as a tailor in Baghdad. He had a small rented shop right across from the house of a very wealthy man. And in that same house, down below, there was a mill. One day, while he was sitting in his shop, he happened to look up, and that's when he saw her. She was standing at the window above. Beautiful, the kind that doesn't just catch your eye, it takes over completely. And just like that, his brother was finished. He spent the rest of the day staring up at that window, barely touching his work, until evening came and he went home, disappointed, like someone who had just lost something he never even had. The next morning, he came back, sat in his place, and of course, started looking up again. After a while, she appeared at the window, and the moment he saw her, he nearly fainted. When he came back to himself, he just went home, confused and miserable. By the 3rd day, she noticed him properly. She saw how his eyes were fixed on her, and she smiled. And of course, he smiled back, like a man who had just been chosen out of the whole world. Then she disappeared, but not for long. She sent her maid down to him with a piece of fine cloth and a request. She wanted him to sew something for her. He didn't hesitate for a second. He took the cloth and worked on it the whole day until it was perfectly done. Early the next morning, the maid came again. This time, she brought more fabric and a message. Her mistress had been thinking about him, and she hadn't slept well. Now at this point, he wasn't just a tailor anymore. He was completely gone. She asked for more work, and he agreed immediately, working hard, not even thinking about himself. After a while, she appeared again at the window, greeting him, smiling, keeping him there until he finished everything and sent it up to her. Then he went home, and here's the best part. He didn't even have money for food. He had to borrow from a neighbor just to eat. And still, the next morning he came back. That same morning, the maid came again, but this time she said something different. Her master wanted to see him, and suddenly all that courage disappeared. He got scared immediately, thinking everything had been discovered. But the maid reassured him and told him not to worry, that nothing bad would happen. So he went. He entered, greeted the man, and the man treated him normally. No anger, no suspicion. In fact, he handed him a large piece of fine cloth and asked him to make shirts, a lot of shirts. So the brother got to work, and he didn't stop. He worked the whole day without even sitting down to eat until everything was finished. At the end, the man asked him how much he wanted. For a moment, everything felt normal again. He gave a fair price. The man called for the money, And just as his brother was about to take it, the lady appeared behind her husband, and with just a look, she told him not to. So what did he do? He pulled his hand back, said there was no need, and walked away, hungry, tired, and still completely in love. And this went on for days. Work, effort, no payment. At one point, he was barely managing, and still, whenever they offered him money, he refused, just because of one look from her. What he didn't know, she had already told her husband everything about him, how he looked at her, how easily he could be controlled. So the two of them agreed on something. They would use him, let him work, and never pay him. And every time he tried to take his money, she would stop him, and still, he kept going back. Until one day, they decided to take the game even further. They arranged for him to marry the maid. Now at this point, you might think he finally got lucky. But on the night he was supposed to be with her, they told him to wait, just one night in the mill. So he went down there, alone, thinking this was all part of the plan. Until midnight. That's when the miller came in. He started complaining about the animal that usually turned the mill, saying it had stopped working, and there was still grain to be ground. Then he looked at the brother, and suddenly had a solution. He took a rope, tied it around his neck, and fastened him to the mill. And just like that, the brother became the donkey. All night, his brother kept turning the mill, grinding the wheat, going in circles like he had always been meant for it. And every time he slowed down, even for a moment, the miller would strike his legs and shout at him, complaining about how lazy he was. By the time morning came, the miller left, and the brother was still there, tied in place, barely able to stand, almost finished. Not long after, the maid came down to him, full of concern, apologizing, saying her mistress had not slept all night worrying about him. But he couldn't even answer. He didn't have the strength left. He somehow made it back home, and as if things weren't strange enough already. And speaking of strange, isn't it strange you still haven't subscribed? The same man who had witnessed his marriage to the maid came to visit him again. He looked at him and started smiling, talking about how his face showed signs of night full of joy, love, and happiness. The brother just stared at him, then told him the truth, that instead of joy, he had spent the entire night turning a mill like a beast. The man listened, then calmly told him something like, "Your fate was never meant to match hers." And honestly, that was probably the only honest thing said to him in this whole story. So the brother went back to his shop, hoping to find some work, maybe earn a little money, and eat properly for once. But of course, it didn't end there. The maid came again, said her mistress wanted to see him. This time he refused, said he wanted nothing more to do with them. And for a moment, you think finally he learned. But before he even had time to settle, she appeared at the window again, crying, calling out to him, asking him what had changed, saying none of what had happened was her doing. And just like that, everything he suffered, gone. He looked at her, listened to her, and believed her. A few days passed. Then the maid came one more time, this time with a very convincing message. The husband would be away that night. He would be out with friends. It was safe. He could come and spend the night with her. Now at this point, you already know this is not going to end well. But the brother, he didn't know. As soon as night fell, he went with the maid, entered the house, and there she was, welcoming him warmly, speaking softly, telling him how much she had missed him. And the brother, he didn't even wait. He stepped closer and asked for a kiss. And right at that moment, the husband walked in. No warning, no delay. Everything had been arranged. He grabbed him immediately, ignored all his pleas, and dragged him straight to the authorities. He was beaten hard. Then they put him on a camel and took him through the streets. And as he was carried along, a man walked ahead of him, shouting out his crime for everyone to hear, telling people this was the punishment for a man who interferes where he does not belong. Public shame from one end of the city to the other. And when that was done, they threw him out, banished him completely, left with nothing. The barber said he went after him, found him, and took him in, gave him a place to stay. And that was how his first brother ended up the way he was. He finished the story, and the ruler couldn't help himself. He started laughing, said something like, "Well done for a man who claims he doesn't talk much." Then, still smiling, he told them to give the barber something and send him away. Then the barber said he wouldn't take any reward, not until he told the stories of the rest of his brothers. But let's pause our silent hero for today. We can't take that a huge dose of him speaking about his 6 brothers all at once. Before you go, if you were in the barber's place, would you speak up or stay silent in a dangerous moment? And what would you do if fate tested you like his older brother?